slideshow and the chapter there. What are we doing? We are looking at mobile computing and commerce and how people do mobile commerce, all right? So first of all, the chapter outline will be what is mobile computing technology, what is mobile financial services, and I all think you know what I'm talking there about banking. Also, what is mobile shopping, entertainment, and advertising, as well as location-based services and commerce. How can it assist us in industry and in organizations? And then what does the mobile enterprise applications look like? Okay, so we need to understand mobile computing technologies. There's a lot of new technologies, and this is one of the reasons I don't work out of the previous edition, because technology changes so rapidly, all right? Then we want to describe the emergence of the mobile financial services industry, the banking industry, the trades, and everything that we do for finance in organizations, as well as understand the growing role of mobile computing in shopping, entertainment, gaming, hospitality, and travel advertising. Right. Then we want to describe the growth of location-based services in commerce. Very interesting, this location-based services. Very high-tech, and I'm going to have a nice discussion about a movie when we discuss location-based services and pervasive computing. So we're going to identify the expansion of enterprise handhelds that makes the use of mobile computing technology possible. Mobile computing technology. The landscape has evolved rapidly over the last 2 decades. Wireless technology makes your location irrelevant, making mobile computing and commerce a source of vast opportunities for businesses. As of 2010, there are over 4.6 billion cell phone users globally, which account for 60% of the world's population. More than 60% of the world population. Right, so the most popular mobile operating systems, and I think some of you recognize them, like BlackBerry. They use the operating system, the BlackBerry operating system with RIM, the Apple iOS for Apple iPhone, iPod Touch, and iPad, Windows Mobile, Windows OS, Windows Mobile OS for MS and Google, Palm, Linux, and Symbian Foundation operating systems. That's something, some of them you actually recognize because you've got a mobile device running one of these operating systems. Okay, so the smartphones and the operating system market share can be broken down in this scenario. BlackBerry, 35%. I think it looks a little bit different now. This was 2012. We are currently in 2014. What market share do you think is now blue? Dark blue. Anyone? Anyone? There was a big war about what is the market share of what operating system, what handheld device is the most popular. Just tell me, what do you think is the most popular today? Android, Samsung. Yeah, Samsung basically, all Samsung handheld devices run on the Android operating system. And I think that in 2012, if you look at this 2012, from 2012, if you've watched the news and saw the technology wars emerging, you will have seen that Android is now actually taken over. So you can Google that now, students. Google that for me. The market share of the operating systems, and again, we can see here Android was 4% in 2012. This is the global smartphone. Samsung is an Android phone, whereas BlackBerry with Research in Motion, as well as Symbian, which is the rest. It's all the Nokias, not Nokia, what? All the other types of handhelds together. All right. I don't want to name really brands here. But then, what is a mobile network? You need a network access point for a mobile device to be able to connect with high-speed broadband networks. So mobile computing and commerce relies on 2 basic approaches to internet connectivity. The short-range wireless, such as Wi-Fi, and the long-range telecommunication technologies, such as your 3G and your 4G. Okay. So what is a wireless network? A Wi-Fi. A wireless LAN and a wireless network. Wireless LAN is wireless local area network, And Wi-Fi stands for wireless fidelity. All right? So wireless LANs transmit and receive data over airwaves over a short distance. The typical configurations we use there is antennas, which is called WAP, the wireless access point that connects to a wired LAN from a fixed location or to a satellite dish to provide your internet connection. Whereas Wi-Fi is to support business and compliance requirements for certain businesses, wireless fidelity, and you need to know how wireless fidelity works as well. This is how Wi-Fi works. You've got a radio-equipped access point connected to the internet. It's over or via a router, and it generates and receives radio waves up to 400 feet. Several client devices equipped with PC cards generate and receive then these wireless waves. All right? There we are looking at number 2. And then the router connects to the internet via a cable or a DSL modem, and then it is connected via a satellite. Right, so this is how what Wi-Fi looks like. The topology of Wi-Fi. I'm not naming any page numbers for consistency in reusing this information in this slideshow. All right, so then we have, I'm going to toggle quickly between the review questions. As I said, just get to my review questions. In the mobile computing technology, there's 5 review questions that you need to study. The first one is, what are the 3 technological foundations of mobile computing? And there I want you to think of mobile devices. That is the technology in mobile computing. It's the device, the operating system and software, and the network. Does that make sense to you? The device, the operating system, and the networks make up mobile computing. The most popular operating systems we've discussed, it's all those. And then what is the reason why it can be difficult to categorize mobile computing devices? Basically, as capabilities and functionality are added to devices, the differences between PC, e-reader, smartphone, and PDA gets blurred. We now just have a smartphone, and we don't even know if that smartphone is a tablet or a phablet, or whatever it is called now. It's just smart enough to do everything. All right. But we need to recognize that mobile hardware evolves, and new categories will emerge, and traditional categories will become irrelevant. Okay. So what factors have led to the recent growth of the market, the smartphone market? And I think you all understand the fact that advertising has got a big role to play, and that there is better browsers, there's enhanced graphical positioning system capabilities, there's even a number of ways to measure the advertisement effectiveness of the smartphone share. All right, but basically everybody wants to be mobile, be connected via mobile devices to their bank, to their products, to their clients, to their employees. Do you understand? So that's why when mobile devices became all smaller and more sophisticated, the share grew. And then again, there we've displayed how Wi-Fi works. It's a very important question in the exam. All right, the last question there is, from an end user perspective, what are the basic trade-offs between Wi-Fi and telecommunications technologies such as 3G and 4G? All right, now 3G and 4G networks have evolved from telecommunications technology. Earlier forms of these networks, as it says there, were used primarily for voice communication, but now data transmission constitutes a major portion of that information flow. And these technologies allow greater use, that Wi-Fi and coverage, it becomes more useful for the everyday person. It's very good throughout most metropolitan areas. And depending on your carrier, your access may be strong across the country. So you can access this anywhere, anytime, information and data. The historical trade-off between the telecommunication network and Wi-Fi has been coverage versus speed. All right? Okay, so basically we want to have the data access, but how fast do we get it? Is it slow on this device, or is it fast on another type of device? Is it covered, or do you sometimes find that you are disconnected from the network? Wi-Fi was faster but required users to be near an open network access point. With 3G networks, a user could travel down the road in a car and reasonably expect access to the network in your car at whatever speed. All right. So with 4G technology, the telecommunication networks are still becoming faster, approaching speeds offered by Wi-Fi. So the wired and the technologies there is evolving immensely. All right. Now we're going to jump into what is the financial systems. The mobile financial landscape. If I can just get to the correct slideshow there. The mobile financial landscape. Hi. Come on. I've got you open here somewhere. Doesn't want to jump to that one. There we are. Mobile financial services. Mobile banking is an extension then of online banking. Financial services handhelds use shortcodes for sending SMS texts, and this is basically your security codes, all right? Once a company has leased its shortcode, it can use the promotion and interactivity with customers. Voting buttons is used as well in financial services. I don't want you to fix your attention so much. You know what mobile banking can do for you, and that you have to have access codes and PIN codes, and they call it online verification codes, OVS codes, all this type of short codes that you need to do mobile banking. The risks in mobile banking is important. There is cloning, phishing, smishing, lots of lost or stolen phones that plays a part in the security risks of mobile computing. So I want you to know the definitions of all these. I'm not going to read everything of them. The other thing I want to just discuss is the difference between phishing and the other phishing. Phishing uses fraudulent communication such as email to trick the receiver into revealing confidential information. Usually it's written text, whereas phishing with a V is similar to phishing, but it uses voice or a voicemail message to trick the person into revealing certain information. All right. Then there's cloning, and in the event that your phone is lost or stolen, some people can access some of your security codes. All right. So that is some of the security enhanced risks. And then we will look at mobile payment, electronic payments. This is very Americanized. You can go and look at these type of things. Your charge to phone, your near field communications, your credit card via your SMS verification phone numbers. Your transferred funds, your phone card readers, your iPhones with payment application, mobile wallet. It's all the payment methods that is used in a mobile environment, but some of them is not used in South Africa as such. I want to get back to the question there. Back to the question. Okay, what are the two kinds of basic transactions requiring mobile payments? Mobile electronic payment systems. Interest in mobile commerce is growing, so there is a greater demand for innovative payment systems that makes transactions from smartphones and other devices safe and secure. That's the important thing. A number of businesses have attempted to meet this demand in a variety of approaches, and there are two basic types of instructions of interest. It is the online purchase of goods and services using your mobile device, and also using your handheld to pay for goods and services in a traditional brick and mortar retail store. All right. So there is several approaches that is explained in the book, but we are going to go on to the next question there. What are short codes and how they are used to conduct transactions? Now, people, all of you know a QR code. A QR code is a quick response code. All right. But consumers increasingly use their mobiles to get product and price information while they're shopping in traditional organizations. Price Grabber, Schlifter, and Frugal are a few of the price comparison sites applicable more to America. Experts are now advising retailers that they need to take their savvy shoppers into consideration when developing a mobile strategy. Did you ever go into a department store, or for instance, where you can scan with your phone, you can scan the QR code of a price of a product and its capabilities? For instance, Builders Warehouse. Have you ever been to Builders Warehouse as a company? Did you ever see a QR code there that says scan this with your cell phone, then you get the product information and the dimensions and everything? I mean, that's an example of how you can enhance your shopping experience with technology, with mobile technology, using your handheld device. All right. So, quick response codes and short codes, even for banking, we use verification codes or online verification system codes so that you can know people that your banking is secure. I'm not going to read through MTV and how MTV and American Idol is using these technologies. You can read through that. Right. But the next question we want to ask is, why have e-wallets not been widely adopted, and what are makers of m-wallets doing to make their apps more attractive? So first of all, we need to define what is a mobile wireless wallet. An e-wallet then is a piece of software that stores an online shopper's credit card numbers and other personal information so that you don't have to re-enter it every time you do an online purchase. With mobile e-wallets, it's called m-wallets. It's been around for a few years, but it's been limited their use because users perceive them to have limited value. Companies that promote m-wallets are attempting to make them more attractive by expanding their functionality beyond simple payment systems. And the goal is to make the m-wallet a replacement of a person's physical wallet. So you can do a little bit of research there on m-wallets, where it doesn't not only store your credit card, but also your driver's license, your passport, and your healthcare information. All right? So this means that crucial information is at hand, wherever the person is. And then makers of m-wallets app hopes that these changes will spur a wide-scale adoption of m-wallets. So what's the most commonly security risks associated with m-wallet? We've discussed it. It's the security issue of criminals targeting your information. The benefits is seemingly to outweigh the security threats, because we cannot do without mobile banking. Do you know that? I mean, we are all hooked on our mobile devices and being able to make payments via EFT and anytime, anywhere. So the security risks I've discussed. I've discussed cloning, phishing, smishing, phishing, and lost or stolen phones, as well as some of these methods. If we look here, the electronic payment systems in place, not only in South Africa, but globally. All right. The next thing we want to do is we want to talk a little bit about mobile shopping, entertainment, and advertising. Mobile shopping, entertainment, and advertising. Let's see. If we look at mobile entertainment, we are looking at your sports enthusiasts who enjoy large numbers of apps and services available. ESPN, iTunes, some of you notice iTunes, you know Apple iTunes. Fox Mobile is maybe more Americanized, the Food Network, but people, we are all using some sort of app for entertainment, aren't we? All right, so this is apps launched for the entertainment industry. There's also your mobile game market, and it is increasingly easy for people to download an app and play any type of game. With smartphones, the potential audience for mobile games is larger than the market for other platforms. I mean, I've had a smartphone for how long? And it's only since I've had the Android experience that I can download, you know, you can do it with the Apple experience as well, the iOS, but it's so easy. And you are getting targeted via all this advertising on this phone to play maybe Candy Crush Saga, and then you play the next game, and then you are introduced to this game. And it's all connected to Facebook, and everybody is giving each other, you know, points and lives and extra incentives to keep on playing the game. And so a lot of people that would traditionally not have played PlayStation or Xbox, they are playing games now. It's a big market. All right. So location-based services is the next one I want to discuss. Again, have you ever went into a big shopping center like Menlyn, and all of a sudden you receive SMSs from, say for instance, Steers or from Edgars or whatever? Even if you've got your GPS maybe on or your Bluetooth, they use these technologies to actually push information. You don't ask for it, you get it on your phone. All right, so basically, it delivers of ads, products, or services to customers whose locations are known at a given time. And how is the location known? via your mobile device. Your GPS or your Bluetooth is on. All right. Now, the 5 key concepts there is to determine the position, the location, navigation, tracking, mapping, and timing. And that is how they actually can say to you, oh, when you pass, for instance, Mug and Bean, they say, you get an SMS, please join us for a coffee. You know? All right. So then you wonder, oh, how do they know I'm here? Okay. So it's quite interesting, and I want you to keep your eyes and ears open for these types of things because it's evolving. The highway project, you all know our famous toll gates, all right? So basically there we can use the radio frequency ID sensor, and it's basically people that prepay, but we have to pay now. Actually, if you drive through those sensors, it actually takes up your location, your car, take a photo of your car and bill you. All right. This is location-based technologies, works with your smartphones, and this is just the technology behind it with the satellites and your cellular phone station, your location service via the internet and then onto your device. Okay, this was in America. The next bus support customer services tracking. I'm not going to explain that. Another thing that I want to discuss with you is pervasive computing, and I don't think it is in the 8th edition. Location-based, I've got. Let's just finish this and just remind me that I did discuss pervasive computing with you. Okay, mobile enterprise applications. Let's go to the review questions for mobile enterprise applications. Oh, before I go there, we did look at the shopping, entertainment, and advertising things. But the questions there is describe how shoppers use their devices to enhance their shopping experience. So basically, you can also ask for information if you enter a shop, or they can send you information if you enter a shop. Mobile commerce are expanding. It is expanding in the retail, product and services, entertainment, gaming, travel, hospitality, and sales arenas. Okay, and an increasing number of vendors allow customers to shop from their handheld devices or to compare prices or to do quick searches of comparisons. A very important one there is iPing, where you can actually compare certain prices in the shop via competitors. I don't think it's so nationally available in South Africa as such, but it's very globalized available, and we are getting there very quickly. All right, read through this. Just highlight some things like how do we pay in South Africa with PayPal, allowing you to pay online for goods and services. Also, how you can scan your QR codes and to be able to compare or to get price information or product information. And then what I want you to consider to actually do some research on what software is available in one of our bigger shops to compare prices. We all know about eBay and OLX and all those things where you can sell information online, all right, or goods and services online. But read through all these, how we can use our mobile device for entertainment and advertising and so forth. Targeted advertising. How is targeted done? This is where people send you that come in and come drink coffee with me, a coffee shop, for instance, when you pass their location. All right, a mobile portal is a customer channel optimized for mobility. Okay, so now this is where it's just basically where we look at the Googles, the MSNs, the America Onlines, Nokia here and now, Windows Live, Vodacom, you know, Voda Live. It is mobile platforms that they have to condense their platforms to fit on the mobile topology or architecture. It's not necessarily the complete application as it is on a desktop. That's what a mobile portal is. All right. And then a sizable percentage of the portals also provide downloads and messaging. For example, you may be asked to pay 50 cents to get a weather report on your mobile phone. Alternatively, you may pay a monthly fee for a portal service to get a report anytime you want. Or you can go, you know, it costs maybe extra on your cell phone, but it's for free on the desktop platform. All right, so just read through that. A voice portal, also very important. It can help, there I talk about iPing. It's where people can actually tell the online, it's not a website, it's not a browser. It's not really a browser where you can actually receive information, but you can retrieve information. Some sites also make it available for interaction, where you can talk and subscribe, and it will give you reminders and notifications on certain information that you require. So that's the interactivity that becomes very popular with voice portals. You and the computer and the service is communicating via voice. Anywhere, anytime, mobile. So let's look at the lists of mobile entertainment available to consumers. List types of mobile entertainment available to consumers. I think you can all think of a lot, but the thing is that I want you to make sure you name all. It's music, videos, movies, games, adult entertainment, sports, gambling apps, which is maybe things that we never even considered when we had to, buy it on a computer disk, and now it's available mobily. All right. Going to scan through this. Mobile games, we've talked about that. Okay, then I want to go immediately into how do we use mobile computing to increase our hospitality services, increase guest satisfactions in the hotel services. A number of hotels offer their guests in-room wireless connections in their rooms, Wi-Fi internet access in public areas, and this is a big hotspot. They draw people to these, and they can sell more coffee and everything because there's wireless access there. All right, that's in the hotel services and the travel services. And then your exploration of the ability to offer broadband during flights on the and users to use their laptops and other devices on rail services is very, very important. People want to be able to work while they are on the move. All right. Location-based services and commerce. Again, this is where I talked about where you are. If you go into Menlyn Shopping Center, GPS and Bluetooth will know where you are. But we are looking here about a little bit concentrating here on the L-commerce part of it, which refers to the delivery of your advertisements, products, and services to customers whose locations are known at a given time. All right. This is called L-commerce, and it's from a business supplier's point of view an opportunity to sell more. All right. It also refers to the delivery of your advertisement services to customers whose locations are known at a given time. They call it location-based services, LBS. And it's beneficial to both the consumer and the business alike. All right. The next one is, how does it work? How does a location-based e-commerce system work? Basically, people, I'm going to show you a graph there. Mobile apps supporting mobile enterprise applications. If we look at Starbucks here in America, they can actually send you SMSs inviting you to come and have a Starbucks coffee. They can say that there's inventory management that is done and things like that. And there's some Salesforce automation and field services that comes in with your customer relationship management and your mobile supply chain management. Now, what does this mean? It just means that you can do better customer relationship sales, after sales service, if you've got mobile applications tracking customer satisfaction, and even your supply chain. Remember your supply chain? I told you that a supply chain is from the invention of the product, the inception of the product to the delivery of the product. What happens in between? Everything that happens that adds value to that product before it is sold. And that supply chain management can also be influenced by mobile applications or mobile enterprise apps. Okay. I'm really not finished in this regard. Let's just quickly go down to the sensors here. You must know what is a global positioning system. All right. And then you must also be able to describe a global geographical information system and its advantages. This is just your satellite technology, how people know where your location is, how the technology works in brief. Discuss that for me. You must also display, just give me one example of advertising, and maybe you can use Foursquare. You can use the examples as it's given here in the book. But I would appreciate in the exam if you can maybe give me a localized example of how advertising is used in location-based commerce. All right. And then augmented reality is a technology that will become more commonplace. It involves the computer generating graphic images by being superimposed on pictures of real things. All right, so basically people, rooms, building, roads, and so on will give you extra information. If you look at a person or an image, it will give you some extra information regarding that person or whatever it needs to enhance digitally. The mobile enterprise applications is also very important. Mobile apps, what can we use in the enterprise? But I don't want to focus on those. How does the mobile apps support the employees of the organization? I must not scroll so much. Let me just stop there. Describe how mobile apps are used inside organizations. This is where the apps becomes consumer-centric applications. And the limitations that come from 2-inch to 4-inch smartphone screens are being eliminated by the iPad and other mobile tablets. All right. And therefore, you've got your internal and external users that actually is mobile in the organization. They need to develop plans to manage the apps to keep them updated. So there's a great adoption of mobile apps that changes the way that we work with our internal and external customers and our clients. Okay. Mobile apps. Many customer companies offer innovative mobile and wireless apps in the enterprise. And I can give you just an example. For instance, a lot of, you can download the app for Vodacom, you can download the app for Edgars, you can download the app for your church, because people create apps for this so that they can be able to interactively communicate with their clients. All right. The Salesforce apps, know the difference there between customer support and mobile customer support. Please give me definitions of customer relationship management. And some of the customer relationship management apps available, for instance, in Oracle, the company, or in Salesforce. It's all there. Describe some wireless Salesforce apps. And then we want to describe mobile customer relationships. As I said, know the definition of customer relationship. What is it extending to if it's mobile? It's available 24/7 to any place, to anywhere. And Siebel, Oracle, and all of those use customer relationship management functions that have attracted the most interest in these organizations. All right. We also want to describe how the mobile computing is used to improve supply chain. I've discussed it very briefly. Just read through that and discuss that for me. Questions for discussion is not applicable to the exam. Just remember, people, we are talking about mobile computing, location-based commerce, m-commerce, as well as pervasive computing. So I want pervasive computing to be explained via chapter 7, the old edition. The old edition, and I just quickly want to open something here about pervasive computing. In the old edition, let me just quickly get to Turban 7th edition and chapter 7. I just want to get the 2014 one. Pervasive computing is something that's not dealt with in this chapter, but I don't want us to miss it. All right, let me just jump to it. There is some, make all of this available to you on the learning management system. Everything will be available, so don't worry. You can go and look at both of these explanations. I just need to get to pervasive computing. Okay, location-based we've done, GPS we've done, some of the nice technologies used in, okay, pervasive computing. I want us to discuss Steven Spielberg's sci-fi thriller Minority Report. Who's seen it? Who's seen Minority Report? Okay. Now, it's an actually very good film to watch. Take it out, and I want you to make sure that you actually understand or start to think about what happened there. Because Steven Spielberg's Thriller was based on the 1956 short story by Philip K. Dick. And the film immerses the viewer in a consumer-driven world of pervasive computing in the year 2054. Spielberg put together a 3-day think tank headed by Peter Schwartz. He was the president of Global Business Network, and they produced a realistic view of the future. And they said that this think tank projected out from today's marketing and media technologies that web cookies, GPSs, Bluetooth, personal video recorders, radio frequency ID tags, and scanners and so forth are used to create a society where billboards beckon your name, newspapers are delivered instantly over broadband wireless networks, holographic hosts greet you at retail stores, and cereal boxes broadcast live commercials. Now, I will say the page numbers here is on page 270 to page 271 in the 7th edition. It's not in the 8th edition, but I want you to start thinking more. It will come forward in this textbook in the 8th edition later. But it's a world in which virtually every object has processing power with wireless or wired connections to a global network in the world of pervasive computing. All right? So just go and watch the Minority Report. And people, I really thought that you, hope that you actually understand mobile commerce a little bit better and how the influence it can have on any organization. Okay, thank you.